Good evening and welcome to the Simply Colorful FiberCast. My name is Lynn Marquedant and I'm your host. Today is June 27th, 2014. So welcome. I hope you've all had a great week. I've had a great week. I have so much to tell you. And I have to say I wish I was up at the Vermont Quilt Festival. But I've decided that the next best thing is to work on our Dear Jane quilt. So for all of you up at the Vermont Quilt Festival, hello. I hope you're having a great time. Love that show, and we'll talk about it and some history. Send me emails, tweet me at Simply Colorful, and send us pictures and let us know how it's going. This is a shout out to Sarah and Faith. Sarah and Faith are both up there right now, and Sarah is actually the one who turned me on to Dear Jane. Excuse me, I was looking back in my notes 2.5 years ago. So let's just jump right in. For those of you who may be familiar with Dear Jane, welcome. I hope that you pick up your project. Who knows, maybe pick up your Dear Jane project and make blocks with me. This is a wonderful project to pick up and start, work a little bit on, and then you can go off to something else. And I'm more convinced than ever, having never done it yet, that every quilter needs a Dear Jane and needs to complete one, just for the challenge of it. So that's what I am doing tonight. I did pull out my stash and I pulled out my existing blocks, and I wanted to share with you where I am and then make a couple of blocks tonight. During the course of the hour, again, the whole point of FiberCast is for all of us to work together on our blocks. So Karen, Judy, Peggy, Sandra, Ann, Becca, Patty, everyone out there, please grab a project and let's get sewing. Let me move my mouse. So, how did this all start, or what is Dear Jane? Well, Dear Jane, for those of you who may or may not be familiar, is a quilt that was made in 1863, or finished in 1863 by Jane Stickle in Vermont. And it has over 5,000 pieces to it, and every block is different. In fact, there are different types of blocks, and I wrote it down. The total quilt, the original, which is in Bennington, it's in Vermont, we'll talk about that a bit. The original quilt is 80 1/4 inches by 80 1/4 inches. It has 169 of the center blocks, and I know you can't see this here. Bonnie, if you're out there, go to dearjane.com and you'll be able to see a nice big picture of this one. It has 169 of the middle blocks. It has 52 of the triangle blocks down here, 4 corner blocks, and a total of 5,602 pieces. And again, it was completed in 1863. It's amazing. So, and the good news is that there is a craze, and there has been for years, and there are patterns that have been put together for us by Brenda Monges Papadakis. I hope I'm saying that right. She may be up at the Vermont Quilt Festival right now, I'm not sure. This quilt was actually in Dick Cleveland's book, Plain and Fancy, the Vermont Quilts, and I have something to tell you about that book that's very special to me and my family. We'll talk about that later. But first, I just want to jump in and get making one of these blocks. And I pulled out my stash. Again, you don't need many, or for me, I've decided to make a lot of different colors, scrappy, because you know I like scrappy, in the blues and greens. Whoops. So that's what you see here is what I've got so far. And I'll tell you a little bit more about those in a minute. The backing, or the background, that I have chosen is a white with a print. And it's kind of funny. At first I couldn't find this, and I thought, oh, I was going to have to make do with a second kind of quilt. Oh, my PC just dinged. But luckily I found one piece, and then I remembered back again 2.5 years ago, so the winter of 2011 and 2012, I decided I didn't have enough, so I went and I picked up more. And of course, when I put my glasses on, the more isn't quite the same. It's close enough, it'll work, but I thought that was funny. I can't remember if I knew they were different or not, and I decided to go with it. I probably did, because I couldn't find the original. So anyway, I think I have enough here for my backing for the ultimate 80 1/4 inch by 80 1/4 inch Dear Jane. So that's my backing. I'm going to use a lot of that. Then what I did, and this was kind of cool, this book, and again, thank you, Sarah, for introducing us to this. There were actually a group of us that at one point were getting together every Sunday afternoon and making our Dear Jane blocks. And, you know, maybe we should do that again come wintertime. Anyway, what I thought was kind of cool is this book. Well, you can't really see it, but it gives us the blocks, and I made notes and put the picture of the fabric that I used to make this. So this particular one is this one right here, and I won't go through all of these, but I was just interested, and I'd recommend doing this. You know, a little bit for those of you who journal with your quilts, it's kind of interesting. It's just something different to do. This looks like the first block I made, June 2nd, 2012, and it says the blue fabric came from the Quilt Stash. That was a store down in Rentham that has just recently closed, where Chris worked. So hi, Chris. Hi, Abby, if you're out there. Ooh, and I won it on an online raffle in 2005. I used it in another quilt, that blue, that I made with my featherweight. All blocks will be made with this white on white. So that was the note I made on January 2nd. Okay, then I guess I made this one. You can't really see it, so I won't even pull it down. And I made the note same day. Second time I did this one, first one was orange, then I decided on a blue one. And I keep going. Let's see. On the 7th of January in 2012, I made this green one. And listen to what I wrote. Sunday morning, made this on Sunday morning after my sister Karen, whom you all met last week, and I want to shout out to her and thank her for being here. That was really a highlight for me, as I'm sure you could tell. Alexa and Tommy, her 2 children, they all left, and I made that square after they were gone. They were here visiting Mom and Dad on MV. We went out for Chinese food with Bob last night. Alexa is so beautiful. Tommy is getting so tall. And I go on and on. There was one here. Let's see. One of them, just 51 pieces in one little block. That one is this one right here. There was one more that I wanted to share with you that I kind of morbid, but kind of funny. So this one, you see that one? I like the ones with the bright, the dark blue. They're really striking. At Sarah's, this was February of 2012, at Sarah's with her sister Jean and Peg, Becky and Joyce. We were all there over in Ashland at the Embroider This building. I said, it's sunny and cold outside. Bob and I took a walk, and Whitney Houston died. So it's the darndest things that we can document. So now let's get to sewing. Enough talking. I also, no one can accuse me of not having the right tools for this. Again, thank you, Sarah. I also have an electronic quilt design software, and every one of these blocks, the Dear Jane blocks, has instructions. So I'm spoiled in that respect, and I was able to load it up today, start it up, and I was able to print out a couple of paper piecing designs, which Karen taught us last week. And I couldn't help but think that this would be a wonderful project for Karen, considering how she has taken to paper piecing. So what I thought I'd do is the first block I'm going to make is C2 for anyone who's following along. All the blocks have a number and a location on the original. This is C2 Streak of Lightning. The original, you can kind of see it's down the corner. And I've already started to document it. 6/27/14, the Vermont Quilt Festival is this weekend. Wish I was there. Sarah and her sister Faith are there. I'll just do a Dear Jane block as the next best thing. So, how do I get started? First, these foundation pieces, I'm going to cut up. I don't know if you can see this. I'm using my rotary cutter, and I'm mindful of what Karen reminded us of last week, that this will dull my blade. But it's better than using the scissors that I have here that I almost think belong to Karen. So Karen, if you're missing a nice brand new pair of scissors from last week, I have them. Okay, so it literally, we make 3 squares, or we put 3 pieces together to start to make the lightning bolt. So this little square is going to be a lightning bolt. And I wanted to pick a very high contrast blue. And I have a whole box of blues here. That'll work. Let's use that. It's all linty. And it's amazing how little fabric these blocks require. Joyce, if you're out there, Joyce Morganelli is probably the most precise and best piecer I have ever seen of Dear Jane. And she does it all with ruler and scissors and fine pencils. So I'm just going to cut some fabric for the paper piecing, again, just like Karen did with us last week. And I'm making it good and big. And then, let's see, we'll put this back up here. I hope everyone has had a good week. I probably have already said that. Send me your emails or post on Google what you're working on. So again, here's a little bit of the white. I'm just going to and this is something that I do believe you get better at judging. So I think what I'll do is I will just I'm not going to cut up as much white here. I'm just going to leave it whole and see if I can get smart about placing the fabric. So remember, I've got the drawing on the front. I'm placing the fabric on the back. And I have to shorten my stitch. I'm going to do it down to 180 like I did last week. And then cut the excess. Finger press, just to make sure. I'm going to cover it all. And look at that, I didn't quite, but I can make that work. So had to turn up the speed here. Okay. This will use more thread. That's okay. I'm cutting away the extra. And then, it's hard to see, I know. Okay. So now we have one little piece of the lightning bolt. Okay. And you'll know what I mean when that comes together. Can you hear the birds? What a difference a week makes. I am literally here all by myself. Last week, as you know, we had company from all parts, and Bob's band was playing, and Bob was cooking a pork loin, and everyone was eating, and there was lots of laughing. And tonight, there's no one here, just me and the birds, if you can hear the birds. In fact, it was kind of funny. I was downstairs eating dinner with Bob, and we were out on the side porch, and it got to be 7:15, and Bob all of a sudden, he says, where is everyone? Well, he thought he had band, but come to find out, band was canceled. So that was kind of funny. And he's already made plans, so he's okay. He's out kayaking. I invited him to come on to FiberCast. That didn't seem to float his boat, though. So I know these pieces are little, so I'm not even bothering showing you really until they're further along. So these are going to be other parts of the lightning bolt. Trust me on this. And 1, 2, 3. Huh. One, 2, 3. Remember to put right sides together when you're paper piecing. I'm sure you guys do. There are all sorts of different ways and patterns that you can use to make these squares. Well, I have to take this out. I mean, literally on the quilt design software, I can print out foundation pieces, templates, just the sizes, a full picture. It's amazing. And then there are all sorts of instructions that are online that Sarah shared with us about other people having tips about making different blocks. So it really, there's so much that people share out there. It's wonderful. And I would love to see any pictures. If anyone out there is doing a Dear Jane, do share. And remind me, the next time I even utter the word hexie, remind me that I don't have time to do a hexie. Tell me something like, when you get your Dear Jane done, you can think about doing a hexie. Oh. Not straight. Hopefully yep, okay. Put it up to the light. Okay. So let me get my iron ready. Can you imagine how long it's going to take us to get this one done? We could definitely spend all summer on this one, but think of how much we will get done. I'm kind of excited about this. You know, and what a great way, if you keep a diary as you do these blocks, it's fun to think back over the years about what was going on. So I'm okay if I don't finish this. God willing, I will finish it, but I'm okay if I don't finish it for a long time. I'll just do a little bit. Now, where can I show you how I'm going to cut this? I don't need that. Let's see. So I'll cut these 3 pieces out, and then we'll check out who is out there. I'm dying to say hi to everyone. There we go. My little stuff. You see this? So I literally am going to use my little ruler, my little cutter, and I am trimming on the paper dotted line. So again, I'm sorry, this FiberCast really isn't meant to be training or instruction. But I feel bad if there are people out there, if you have questions, I certainly can try to answer them, or others who are online have cumulatively a lot more experience. And you know, feel free to ask questions. Okay, so this isn't about teaching, but I'll show you what I did wrong here. So this is the size of the piece that I am supposed to have made. Everything worked great, except that up here, my blue piece wasn't big enough. So it didn't come far enough. What I'm going to do, instead of redoing it, is I'm literally going to take this scrap and I'm going to extend the blue so I don't know if you can see that, but I have just sewn a blue piece onto the blue, and now I'm going to iron it up, and that will create enough size to catch in the seam. And then we'll always know that it's not perfect. I love this little cutter. It's very good. So tonight is the start of a 1-week vacation for me, and I am excited. See? Ta-da! So that's one. Very, very excited. And the quarter has ended up. We have one more day on Monday, but we've had a good quarter, and it is time to relax, go to the beach. Oh, I did it on the other side. You're not going to believe this. When I get to the white, we're going to have to do the same thing. I hope everyone out there is having vacation time, planning it. Now, won't that be funny if we get one block done in an hour? because I keep goofing up. So that's really hard to see, I'm sure, but my white doesn't go up far enough. So same drill. Just going to take one of these scraps. Problem with this is it's going to create some seam bulk, but that's okay. So there, I've just sewn that on, and I'm going to flip it over with the iron. Okay, and now we'll cut away the excess. So far, we've goofed on 2 of the 2 pieces we've made. Hello. Okay. So those 2 are going to fit together like that. Now let's do the other one. And this one, believe it or not, no goofs. As soon as I cut this out, I'll check email. Thank you to folks who shared the link to FiberCast. I really appreciate it. We have a lot of people who watch the YouTube video afterwards, which is great. And but I'd love to have people watch live too. Doesn't matter. So there's another one. And the 3 of them will get sewn together. Now, and this is where instructions really could come in handy, because oh, you know what? This is part applique. So we're making this block. It will be about 5 inches wide. These 4 triangles, I'm sorry, these 2 diamonds, 4 triangles, 2 diamonds. It's a wonder I can get along. Okay, these 2 diamonds are going to be appliqued on when we're done. And I'll show you what I mean. These 2, I'm going to sew, well, no. Actually, let's check the email. We're making good progress. Oh, Chris! Chris is out there. Hi! And she's packing up her studio as she's watching. Hello! I bet you're watching on that fancy TV you have up there. Oh, we'll see you tomorrow. We're looking forward to that. Something is opening. Oh, Jean, hi. Jean says she's so excited to watch live tonight. I'm glad you're here. Finishing a quilt for a client for his mother's 70th. And also my garden is looking good. It sure is. Wow. This is Jean's friendship garden. And let me see if I can open one of these. That's wonderful, Jean. Look at that. Let's see who's out there. Oh, I'm glad you're both out there. Oh, we have some new followers. Welcome, Maria. And Rita. Rita says, hi, Lynn. Love seeing you and your sister having so much fun. Karen's quilt is beautiful, isn't it? Thanks for FiberCast. Love it. I'm so glad. Thanks for writing in, Rita. Joyce, hi. Nice to see you. I've seen you online. I look forward to your quilts. Glad to see you tonight, says Joyce. How do you find the time to make so many quilts? I see you are starting another one. Can't wait to watch. Ruh-roh. Well, for the record, everyone, remember this I had already started, so this is a UFO, right? That's funny. Karen! She says, what an epic project. Love the journal idea. I'm just plugging away at practicing my machine quilting. Well, wonderful. Great. Send us a picture of what you're quilting. Sandra, she says, oh my, I love that. Ms. Jane finished her quilt 2 years before my grandfather was born. Wow. Can you imagine how long it took her without all the convenient tools we have? Isn't that the truth? She had nothing. I have so many UFOs now, but may have to jump in with you on a Dear Jane. I know. We don't have to do it quickly, Sandra. We can do our other projects and just do 1 or 2 blocks every month. Love watching you and learning so many new things. Ugh, you don't have anything to learn, but thank you. And Patty, can't sew tonight, I'm just too tired. Spent the day painting my sewing room. So ready to finish so I can sew. Happy sewing. Well, Patty, Chris Steen, who is on the watching tonight, is moving to a new studio, and I know she's looking for quilting. She's looking for paint colors. So let us know what color paint you used. That's wonderful. Welcome, everyone. Now, this is really fascinating. We're going to put 4 pieces together. I know you can't see that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sew the slanty pieces together, and I'm going to do what Carol Doak taught me, which is to use my pins on the corners of the lines of the foundation paper on the front and back. So it's kind of like the stack and whack where you have to line up the fabric motifs exactly. You just put a pin in the corner of both sides, and then you can sew right down on. So I've put the pins straight up and down on the two lines that need to match up. But then if I were to bend the pin over and pin it, the sides of the fabric would move. So I take a third pin. Now that I know that they're lined up here, and then I put a pin to pin the two together. So hopefully that was, actually I'm going to put another pin here. I'm going to take this one out. I'm going to put a pin down here and take that one out. So let's see how she does. Not perfect. Oh, you really can't see it. The top one is perfect. The bottom one is off by probably 1/8 of an inch. But Hang on. You know the little blue piece that I added on? It shimmied its way out, and I don't like the way that looks. Okay, so now I'm going to just give that an extra press. I love how fabric can be moved and worked into things. I love that part of fabric. Much better. Okay. So I basically had two problems. One was the blue wasn't fitting, lying flat up there, and here these two don't line up. So question is, you know what? I can live with it. I'm just going to put the other one on. I'm curious. Well, see, that's actually, I probably know who would fix it. Joyce, I know you'd fix it. And I am in awe of that. Carol, if you're out there, hi. I don't know if you are. You may be off with family. And speaking of family, and speaking of Vermont, this is all kind of ties together. Last week, the day after we had our piecing, our paper piecing with Karen, she and I and my mother and my niece, Karen's daughter, we all took our road trip up to Vermont. And what fun we had. We didn't get into any trouble. And the weather could not have been more perfect. And green, Vermont is so green right now. And we packed in so much. We stopped in Northfield at where my dad's family is from and where he grew up and where he went to college, and met up with his sister, hi Aunt Jane, if you're out there, and we went to a street fair in Montpelier. Then we had wonderful Thai food in Montpelier. Then we all caravanned up to Burlington, and we met up with my dad's other sister, Aunt Bonnie, hi, and all of our cousins were there. So Ben, Rick, and Amy, and then their families, and some of the spouses, and we had a pizza dinner, and we saw Burlington, Vermont. They were doing a wine festival up there, and just so good to see everyone. Well, that's the darndest thing. So one worked great again, and then one didn't. So I clearly have something going on here. So that one and that one, I have an extra 1/8 of an inch. But as I say, I'm going to leave it. Apparently on the original Dear Jane quilt, not every block is exactly the same size. She ended up truing them up to a certain size, but you'll notice some of them have a bigger white border around them than others. And in between each of these, there is a little white. So it can be forgiving. Okay, so we've got that. Beautiful. Now we need to cut out 4 pieces that are going to go around this to make the square. So templates. And what should I write on my diary? What happened today? The World Cup is going on. I should write about that. I don't even know, is Canada still in it? And if you're out there, I always think of you. We're still in it, but just barely in the US. And I don't know about Australia. I should be paying more attention. I have to say, I have paid more attention this year than ever before. I think it's exciting. Now, how would you guys do this? What's the best way? Are they the very same? Two go one way and 2 go the other. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out 2 at a time. If I were going to make a lot of these, I would make a plastic template or a wooden template, not a wooden template, cardboard template. Boy, doesn't this remind you of like your first quilt when you used the templates to cut these things out? Streak of lightning is what this pattern's called, or this block is called. Okay, so I need to put it where you can see it. Sorry about that. Whoa. Talk about set in seams. Okay, so there are 2. I'm just going to do 2 more. I've been thinking of everyone doing their graduations and weddings, and I hope everyone has enjoyed them and is now looking forward to some vacation time. Okay, this is working. So what else has been new this week? The World Cup really was on my radar Thursday, and of course because of working you can't watch it during the day. And then when I heard they had lost, I didn't feel like watching it. But okay, so I know you can't see this because it's white on white, but I basically have just made a frame for this, and I'm going to decide how to do the Y seam. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to, this just has disaster written all over it. The likelihood that this is going to work is not high. Okay, so I stopped a 1/4 of an inch away from the seam because now I have to fit it into here. Oh, I went too far on that one because we have another Y seam at the end. That's okay. I'll just undo it. Thank goodness for neutral Aurifil thread. Oh, I got the Webb's yarn catalog in the mail. For anyone who likes to knit, check out Webb's. It's actually, I think you find them at yarn.com. They're out in Massachusetts. They have a big warehouse out in Northampton. I think it's Northampton. It's a fun road trip. Okay. Keep your fingers crossed. So I'm starting a 1/4 of an inch in, and I know you can't see this. We really do need a camera up above, don't we? Wouldn't that be fun? You know, if I could just, Bob said, my husband said, there's a way that I could rig up a camera, and I literally here, we could hit a button so that either the camera comes here or it comes down from the top. And that might be more satisfying. You might be able to see more. I'll check into it. Okay, here's the moment of truth. So we've done a Y seam. Let's see if it looks like it's going to lie flat. It is. Look at that. All right, let's do the other side. I'll do the other side, and then we'll put the two together here. It's kind of like making a frame for a picture. So the other thing I wanted to share with everyone about this quilt and about Vermont, and again, it's where my family's from, it's where I was born, my sister was born, and that book that I mentioned, Plain and Fancy. So I don't know how else to say this other than I'm kind of excited. I have in my midst, literally in this room, I have an antique quilt that my Aunt Jane and Aunt Bonnie have given to me to steward or to watch over until it goes to its next place. Now, what I mean by that is it's a quilt, another quilt made in the 1800s. And actually, I'm going to stop right here and get the book. So back in oh wow, it's signed. I didn't even know that. Okay. 1991. So more than 20 years ago, a book called Plain and Fancy, Vermont People and Their Quilts was published, and Richard Cleveland and Donna Bister were the authors. And for any of you who are up at the Vermont Quilt Festival or have been to it in the last 40 years or know of it, you know Dick Cleveland was one of the key people behind that, and actually a friend of my Aunt Jane's and from Northfield, and it's a wonderful small world. So I'm bragging. And basically, it's signed to my grandmother, this actual book, to Alice Bryant, with thanks, Richard Cleveland, Donna Bister, Carolyn Fernandez, and Priscilla Hatch, I think. In this quilt, again, Vermont, Plain and Fancy, is the Dear Jane quilt. And I'll show it to you right now. This is a fun book. It's surprising to me, that front picture of the red, white, and blue, which is apropos because next week's the 4th of July, is one of the brighter quilts of all of them in here. So a lot of the quilts aren't all that flashy. But there's a hexie, and there are lots of history that goes with it. Lots of reading. I'm kidding, I read. Now, where is Jane? Where are you, dear Jane? Here she is. Okay. So there's a picture of the original Dear Jane quilt. And here's a close-up. I don't know if you can see that, of one of her corners. And she says it's wartime, 1868. I thought it was 1863. That's interesting. Well, no, I guess it is 1863, which is what we've been saying. And it has the 5,602 pieces. Reads the embroidered inscription on this quilt, clear evidence of what was on its maker's mind. There is so much going on in this quilt that one's eye hardly knows where to begin. The 169 blocks are a mixture of traditional and original patterns, each rendered in a space 4 1/2 inches square. The eye is pulled to the border, which resembles so many multicolored ice cream cones. As if the ice cream cones were not enough, the maker poked, prodded, stretched more pieces to fit the alternating triangles. Even the oddly shaped corner blocks are given over to patterns. The quilt is a marvel of inspiration, persistence, talent, and advanced geometry. Jane Stickle was 50 when she made this quilt, a woman plainly at the peak of her creative and technical abilities. The fabrics are a sampler, too, a wonderful collection of mid-19th century textiles, many as crisp and bright as the day they were sewn into the quilt. Wow. And I could go on, but so I encourage you to find this book in your library, or, see some of the other quilts that are from Vermont. And then what I really wanted to tell you was, one of these quilts is the one that I have right here in this room. And it's an Ohio Star by Jane Eliza Dewey Selly. And it's this one. And I have the wonderful provenance that my Aunt Bonnie wrote about it. And again, it's right over there in acid-free paper. And on another FiberCast, I'm going to pull it out and show it to everyone. I'm very proud of it. And it says, this Ohio Star is an oddity with its small 8 by 8.5 inches appliqué star in the center of a large 40 by 41.5 inch pieced one. The piecing is accurate enough, but the appliqué wobbles a little, and the quilting, although extensive, is simple. Born in 1843, this Jane, who made this quilt, lived all her life near Montpelier. Her father, Zenas C. Dewey, had a twin, Julius Y., who went on to become a local physician. Around Montpelier, Dr. Julius Dewey was known as the founder of the National Life Insurance Company, now one of the nation's largest. Jane's cousin George, son of the doctor, achieved a fame of his own when in May 1st, 1898, he sailed into Manila Bay at the head of an American naval squadron. He destroyed the Spanish fleet without the loss of a single American life and came home to a hero's welcome in Vermont, particularly in his hometown of Montpelier, which declared the day of his visit Dewey Day. So we'll talk about that more. That quilt right there. So hello to Vermont. So let us go back to finishing this up. And then I cannot believe, I just glanced at my watch, and I can't believe it's the witching hour again, or bewitching hour. Now I'm fitting in 2 Y seams. So I can remember in the early days of the Quilt Festival, the Vermont Quilt Festival, when it was up at the Norwich Armory, Grammy would invite me to the champagne and chocolate showing of the quilts the night before it opened. I always felt so special. She got special tickets. Okay, so we're getting closer. We have these 2 seams are pretty flat. Now we just have to sew these 2 seams, that seam, and then this seam down here. And then we'll call it another FiberCast. I can't believe how the time flies. And I encourage everyone to pull out a UFO. 'Tis summer. We have a little bit of extra time. Linda Grant, if you're watching, I'm going to get on that little project that you gave us. It'll be in the mail Monday, or in your mailbox. I'll probably drop it off before we head to the boat. I can't tell anyone what the project is because it's a surprise. But it's that kind of thing that, you know, it was a summer project, and I know if I don't get it done now, it'll be September. Okay. Oh, that one worked well. This one, just doing a little bit of rigging, and then we'll iron her. I'll show it to you, and then we will have to end. I wish, like Bonnie in the basement, I had a hot tub to go to. But you know what? There'll be one more thing that I have to clean. And I'm not a big cleaner. Okay, guys. And by next week, I will have appliqued on the little piece. Come on, baby. You can lie flat. Oh, how fun is this? Although it's not square, but I'll square it up. So for all of you out there, this is a Dear Jane block. It's called Streak of Lightning. It's a C2. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you got a lot done. It's amazing what we can get done in 60 minutes. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next Friday on the Simply Colorful FiberCast. Bye. Bye, everyone.